Okay, with this one, we're going to have, well, before we express it in partial fractions, we're going to make the x squared plus 2 into linear factors. And we're going to do that using complex numbers. So we're going to have x take away I root 2 and x plus I root 2. So we're making use of the difference of perfect squares and also complex numbers to make this linear. So what we've got is x squared plus 1 over x minus 1, x minus I root 2, x plus I root 2. And then those are linear factors. So we can say it's a over x minus 1 plus b over x minus I root 2 plus c over x plus I root 2. Let's just get rid of that because at some stage we're going to need to work over there, I'm sure. So if we go clear of fractions, so with this one, the x minus 1s would cancel. So I'll end up with a, and these two multiply together, of course, I can simplify to x squared plus 2. And although actually thinking about it, it might be best to leave it as x minus I root 2 and x plus I root 2. With the b, the x minus I root 2 would cancel, so we'll end up with x minus 1 and x plus I root 2. And for the c, that will end up with an x minus 1 and the x minus I root 2. Okay, so let's let x be equal to 1. So this one disappears, and we get 2 is equal to a into 1 take away I root 2, 1 plus I root 2. So that's going to be a into difference of 2 squares, so it's going to be 1 plus 2. So a is going to end up being 2/3. Now let's let x be equal to I root 2. So this one would disappear. This one will disappear. We'll get a b. Now, I root 2 squared, so that's going to be I squared times 2, so that's negative 2 add 1 is negative 1. And that's going to be equal to b into x minus 1. So that's going to be I root 2 take away 1. And then if x is I root 2, that's going to be multiplied by 2I root 2. So negative 1 is going to be b into, so expanding this out, so I squared is negative 1, root 2 times root 2 is 2, so that's actually going to give me negative 4, and take away 2I root 2. So b is going to be negative 1 over negative 4 take away 2I root 2, which we could write as 1 over 4 plus 2I root 2. We don't want to have this in the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some space and I'm going to simplify that. So what I'm going to do here is multiply top and bottom by 4 minus 2I root 2. So 4 minus 2I root 2 over 4 plus 2I root 2, 4 minus 2I root 2. So that's 4 minus 2I root 2 over 16 plus, so 2 root 2 times 2 root 2 is 4 times 2, which is 8. So that's given us 4 minus 2I root 2 over 24, which is 2 take away I root 2 over 12. So that's the value of b. Okay, so finally we'll let x be equal to negative I root 2. So that would make this term disappear and this term disappear. So we're finding c now. So we'd get, so negative I root 2 squared. So we're squaring this. So the negative will become positive. I squared is negative. Root 2 squared is 2. So it's going to be negative 1 again here. And then over here, we're going to have negative I root 2, take away 1, and negative 2I root 2. So I could make this 1, and let's make both of those positive. So I've got 1 plus I root 2 in there. And then this is negative 2I root 2. So 1 is going to be negative 2I root 2. And then we'll have a plus 4. And I missed it. That was all multiplied by c, wasn't it? So c is going to be 1 over 4 minus 2I root 2. So same sort of thing again, multiply top and bottom by the conjugate, 4 plus 2I root 2 over 4 minus 2I root 2, 4 plus 2I root 2, and that's going to give us 4 plus 2I root 2 over 16, add 8, which is 4 plus 2I root 2 over 24, which is going to be 2 plus I root 2 over 12. So that is our c. So finally, what we'll have here is 2 over 3x minus 1. And then with the b, we're going to have 2 take away I root 2 over 12, x minus I root 2. And for the c, we've got 2 plus I root 2 over 12, x plus I root 2.